Welcome to Building People, Companies, and Careers, brought to you by AccruePartners. I'm Amy Pack.
And I'm Patty Comer. We're your host on this journey through the vibrant business landscape in the Queen City.
This podcast is an extension of our mission statement at AccruePartners, where we have spent over 20 years fostering connections and building relationships.
Whether you're a client, candidate, or business influencer in Charlotte, this podcast is for you.
We are immensely grateful for your support throughout our journey, and now through this podcast, we're excited to share the stories that have defined our path.
So let's dive in.
Let's do it. Welcome back to Building People, Companies, and Careers, brought to you by AccruePartners. I'm Amy Pack, and with me today is Stacy Cassio, founder of the Pink Mentor Network, established in 2017. In 2018, Stacy moved the organization to a business community offering mentorship advice and helping others build their careers. We are here today for an exciting transformation journey and to hear Stacy's story, how she became an entrepreneur after leaving her corporate jobs, and forming an organization allowing people to have an impact both on their careers and their companies. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you so much, Amy. I'm so glad to be here.
So we always like to start with the first interview question that we ask people. Tell me about yourself.
That's a loaded question, isn't it? So I would say, looking back, my whole career and life was founded on great mentors. I always had tremendous people who believed in me. And that happened, from teachers early in my education life to managers that I had throughout my corporate life. And now, today, I recognize that it was kind of my skill, that I was building these relationships that were helping me grow without even thinking about it. So I would say, if you want to know a little bit about me, I am a Midwestern girl. I hustle like a New Yorker because that's where I met my husband. And now I'm developing Southern Grace. It's just kind of the goal and the work that I get to do every single day.
That's great. So you're from the Midwest. You met your husband in New York.
Yeah.
How did you end up in Charlotte?
Well, I was 19 and I grew up in Kansas, which I am so grateful for my upbringing. It was simple. I learned a strong work ethic. I had tremendous support. But at 19, I was looking for the quickest way out of Kansas. And it turned out in the Midwestern colleges, they had these posters that said, New York nanny wanted. And it was before the internet. So I was actually meeting my guidance counselor at college, and I was totally lost at that moment in life. And I just saw this poster, and it resonated with me. I was like, oh, this is a one-way ticket out of Kansas. Sign me up. And so I ran home. I called the number. They faxed me a 27-page application. I filled it out. And I put all these things about, I want to be a great mom. I'm a wholesome Midwestern girl looking to take care of a family. It got me the job, which I know you'll appreciate because you're in staffing.
Right.
But it was really just an opportunity to collect more experiences, to understand who I was. And I, about 6 months into that, I called my mom. I said, Mom, I am so homesick. Would you please send a ticket? I got to get home. And that night, I went out to a bar. I met my now husband, and I never went back. Never went back. So I think there's a little bit of fate in every person's life. You find the people you need in the moment. And as far as Charlotte, I think it's the city that found us. It's been incredible to build a life here, to build my business here. I've just met tremendous people in this city. So I'm so grateful that all of that ended up in the Queen City.
Yeah, the Queen City is a special place. I always tell people it's 1 degree of separation. So you started your career in Charlotte, if I recall, and had quite the journey. Tell us a little bit about that journey. And then you started the Pink Mentor Network in 2017. Then I want to talk about, then that's when you and I first met, but let's just go back to your career journey a little bit once you were in Charlotte and some pivotal points during that time that got you here.
Yeah. So I actually started my career in White Plains, New York.
Ah.
So I worked for This was before they even had online like job applications. And
I
so
remember those
Yeah,
days.
you would go to the newspaper, you would find the jobs, circle them, and
The
then
classifieds.
yes, that's right. That's right. So I had responded to a newspaper ad, and it was insurance investigation. So I worked for a company that did workers' comp surveillance, that they were looking for fraud and insurance claims. And what I didn't realize in that opportunity, I was placed between the owner of the organization and his brother, who was one was doing sales and the other one was doing ops. It taught me so much. They would just invest in me to show me the business from a sales perspective, then from an ops perspective. And then they would show me how they work together to create that environment. And tremendous mentors. I know that a lot of what I am as a professional today, they planted some of those seeds.
Yeah.
And then we decided that, Charlotte would be a great place to perhaps buy a home when we were just married. And so we ended up in Charlotte, and again, just responding to random job opportunities. And I started working for a accident reconstruction company here in Charlotte. And the owner of the company was just building something incredible. And I got to build it with him. I was his right hand. I remember like hiring I actually helped hire the president that is now there today.
Oh, wow.
Just
Mm-hmm.
whatever the need of the organization was, I was like, okay, I'll figure this out. We'll figure out how to do it. So when I look back at some of those early opportunities, being the right hand of the visionary was so critical, because I, at that point, was building their dreams while I was still trying to understand what mine was.
Mm-hmm.
It was tremendous.
Yeah, it gave you an opportunity to see a lot too, right?
Oh, all types of problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm resourceful. I am gritty because I've worked with entrepreneurs in my career.
There's a lot to be seen in all that, things that you just don't normally get to see and things that you just can't plan out. I always say sometimes those are the best ways to an MBA without having to go to actual school.
Yeah.
So I think it was around 2018 or so we first got introduced, and I was thinking last night, I don't remember who introduced us, but you had a panel discussion for mentors over off of Central Avenue somewhere. You asked me to speak on a panel, quickly said yes. Shortly after that, we hosted one of your discussions that you had for people seeking mentorships in our offices at AccruePartners on a Saturday morning. And so it's really been fascinating to see what you've created for both companies and for individuals seeking mentorships and the impact that it's made. So why don't you tell us a little bit of what that looks like, and then we'll dig into a little bit more detail of what your organization is doing.
Yeah. Well, first of all, from the bottom of my heart, Amy Pack, I have to thank you, because in those days, there was no reason to say yes to me. You came and invested your time in a panel discussion. Actually, surprise, I have the actual invites. The name of the event was called "The Year She Leapt into a New Job," and it was an Advent co-working.
Yeah.
And it was March 3rd of 2018. And I will share this for all of the job seekers that are listening to this podcast today. At this point, I was kind of thinking, okay, I can either leap into another career, another job opportunity, or I can start to navigate this road of entrepreneurship, whatever this might look like, my own path, my own journey. And so I kind of did a dual path, which I highly recommend for anyone who is trying to figure out what's next. Head in both directions. And what you will find is doors will close on one. I had a dear mentor who told me every entrepreneur is totally unemployable. And that makes so much sense to me, because doors continue to close. And these doors continue to open, and you start to see this shift in who you are and what you want to be.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting one. Check that out. This was the Trailblazers breakfast.
Oh, yeah, at our office.
At your office. So Amy
That's great.
and Amy hosted a Trailblazers breakfast for me with Patty, and they opened up the office and just welcomed all of us, anyone who was interested in entrepreneurship, to learn about their journey. And I am forever grateful. I think the thing that you all did differently than anyone else I was asking at that moment is you told me the hard stuff. Like, there was no sugarcoating at all. I learned so much from all of your hardships, which is why I find our mentorship to be so interesting, is when we ask for advice from people who've already lived it, all of a sudden we understand there might be some blind spots. We start to see them. We broaden our perspective. And so there's such a different, when we can have the ability to learn from someone else's experience, we won't make those mistakes.
Right.
Gives you a head start.
Yeah.
And so I'm forever grateful for you seeing something in me and investing in it. And this feels like a full circle moment, really.
Yeah, it is. Well, I always tell people you got to pay it forward, right? And when you're a mentee or mentor, you have to remember those and pay it forward. Somebody gave me a chance and an opportunity. Somebody gave me feedback, right? And as things change and as times change, that may look different, but we all have to help each other get there.
Yeah, you've been so good at that.
So, well, thank you. So tell us a little bit, about you're working with big companies in Charlotte and outside of Charlotte. I mean, often I'll reach out to you and you're in another state in another part of the country. So I think that speaks volumes for what you've been able to accomplish over the years. But when you work with companies and you work with other individuals, where do you see the intersection of mentorship with recruiting and onboarding? Because it all starts there, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see that happening, and what would be some advice you would give?
Yeah, so I think there's an interesting fact that very few people know about mentorship programs. So the average length of a mentorship program is only 3 months.
Wow.
And it's not because most programs are scheduled for a year, but in 3 months, bandwidth has changed.
Mm-hmm.
People have lost interest. Maybe it wasn't a good fit. So there's just this natural kind of fizzling out that happens. And so what I have learned is there are key places, 6 in fact, when we need mentorship in our careers. And if we have access to that type of support, our career will take off. If we don't, we're going to, take the wrong corner, take the wrong turn. We're going to hit a dead end. Eventually we'll probably get there, but it's not the direct route.
Right.
And so a lot of the work that I do today, it started from all of those mentorship events that I was doing early on with you helped me start in the beginning. So just a little bit of background about Pink Mentor Network. It started because I was looking for a mentor. And so understanding that mentorship is kind of broken for the very overcommitted, passionate women who want to give back, just like you said, but where on your calendar do you have those opportunities?
Yeah, it's hard.
It is hard. And so my original thought is, how do I make this something that isn't a relationship, but is a series of conversations at the moment that you need it? And so identifying the critical places in a employee's experience that they need mentorship was ideal. And one of those is any time we start. So thinking about onboarding, if we can help people get access to mentors early on when they're coming aboard a organization, we can increase, first of all, how they're hired and how they're trained up for the role. We can get them efficient and we can get them to a place to belong. I think the other thing that we miss out on is at that stage, we're also looking for peers.
Yeah.
So if you can connect several people who are new to the organization, all of a sudden they have a little peer group that's also, knocking the new off and becoming part of the organization.
Yeah,
So
I would imagine that's really impactful to the employee experience, right? Onboarding takes a village, if you will. And this, I would imagine, is part of that village to ensure once they've been shepherded through that first week or a few weeks, that then there's more community available to them.
100%. I think the other great piece about once you establish a great onboarding program, you can, reutilize some of that knowledge, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not something you have to recreate every single time. And in fact, what I love doing is making the new teammate add on to our onboarding strategy. Like, this is our onboarding Bible here. This is what we need, and you're going to leave your fingerprint here. So
Yeah.
I think there's some really cool ways to think about this collectively instead of one more thing for the manager to do.
Right. So what would, looking back and at all the opportunities you've had, what would be one of your biggest success stories? You don't have to name the company because I realize there's probably some confidentiality there. But what is your biggest success story when looking back to where you are today?
There are some moments that I'm super proud of. And I will say one of the things I like to do when I'm approaching kind of a growth stage is to look back and look at those moments where I'm really proud of the work I've done. So actually preparing for this conversation, I was sitting in my car, like looking through all of this work that I'm really proud of. And a couple examples of that are one organization I've been working with for 3 years. And they have created, it's basically a Pink Mentor Network Academy. And it's all the support at critical places in the employee experience that we've done tremendous virtual training sessions, and
Mm-hmm.
they've just compiled them. So they become part of the employee's journey. And just last week, a woman from the company, she was going up for a promotion, and she got it. And she wanted to say, I have watched every one of your videos. And I was like, wow, first of all, somebody watches a recording of a video. I'm so honored. But secondly, she was like, I've used something from every one of those videos. And she was telling me that she got this promotion. And she said, and I want you to know, I'll look around in the office here and I will see other women everywhere watching a video. It's so nice to have that mentorship in the moment that we need it. And so kudos to that company because they've done a tremendous job at they've created this catalog of training available to support those at the moment that they need it.
Yeah, that's great. It's a great story. What would be a piece of advice you would offer to someone seeking a mentor? Could be someone that maybe their company doesn't have a formal program, or maybe they do, but they don't have access to it or they don't know about it. But I think there's probably a lot of people that don't have access to a formal mentorship network in their own company. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, so the first thing is never wait for a program. A program is you procrastinating on your career growth. Like if you
Love
want,
that.
if you want career growth, find somebody who is really good at something, a skill that perhaps you want to develop, ask them how they did it. Don't ask them, do you want to be my mentor? You don't want to make it awkward. So instead, ask them, how did you do this? So a couple ways I like to think about mentorship is what are my personal and professional goals for the next 6 months? Who do I know who has already accomplished them?
Mm-hmm.
How do I get on their calendar? After I get on their calendar, how do I take what they shared and do the work and go back to them and tell them what I did? Show the results, because most people will forget that there's another back half. After you have that conversation, mentorship isn't effective until it's utilized.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you go back and tell the mentor, hey, I used this, this is what has happened, they invest more.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes this, like, yes, the ask and the meeting are one half of the equation. The next half is using it and telling the mentor how grateful you are and continuing to grow the
What they
relationship.
got out of it. I equate that to our business sometimes in networking. I'm always telling people you have to go back and thank those and give them an update for the information they gave you and what the result of it is. Because if they know you've taken action on it, they will continue to give you more. If they don't know that you've taken action on it, they're likely not to do anything else on the go forward. So there is, I always call it circling back.
Yeah.
Probably an overused word. They say don't put it in the subject line of an email, but it is true. You've got to circle back and let people know what you've acted on and what the outcome is.
Yeah, I think the other thing in using mentorship to grow your career. So are you growing skills? Are you growing relationships? Or are you trying to understand the game? First of all, if you don't understand that your career is a game and that you're the star of this game, then you really have to reframe how you're thinking about career growth. So
Mm-hmm.
I had a mentor this week share something with me that really changed the way I was thinking about mentorship. She said, I've had a lot of people open doors for me, and I've had a lot of people, take me under their wing, that phrase that you like to hear or that people like to say. But she said, I've never had anyone tell me how the game's played. And I think
Interesting.
that's a new level.
Yeah.
Like, how do you play the game, and who are you sharing that playbook with?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important in thinking about your legacy as a professional.
Yeah. So when I hear you say that, it rings true because we always say, do you want a career or do you want a job?
Yes.
There's a big difference. And I don't think some people necessarily realize that. If you're wanting a career, you are that star.
Yes.
And you've got to go seek out other avenues and relationships and opportunities and be an avid learner. And a job is just kind of checking the box every day and closing it at the end of the day and starting all over. Where a career is, you're being the star of the game. I absolutely love that.
Yeah. Another thing to think about is I'll have people come up to me and say, I really want to work at this company or that company. What's your recommendation, and get there? And they don't have any job openings now. And I said, if you're waiting for the opening, you're way too late.
Right.
Who do you know that works there that can give you some insight? What about this company, it makes you want to work for them? What aligns with your values and your skills? And understand that way, when there is a rec open, somebody takes your name to the top of that pile. Like, you're too late if you're just thinking about when does something a posting open. That's already halftime.
Yeah. Day late and a dollar short.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So share with us, what advice would you give an organization, a company that's looking to build a mentorship community maybe?
Yeah, I think you're really smart in saying community. First thing you have to think about is getting past programming. The goal is not to give people more work to do.
Right.
The goal is to build a culture where leaders see the talents of those around them and they invest in the people to give them some career path, or to give them new opportunities, or to help retain the talent that we do have.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also building a culture of mentorship means everyone on the team is proactive, strategic, and intentional about their career growth. They take it seriously. So I think when you're looking at creating a culture of mentorship, you're not thinking about a program anymore. You're thinking about, what are the skills that mentors in this organization need? What are the skills that mentees on our team need? Have we taught folks how to understand these roles? What are the expectations of the roles? And the number one thing that most organizations miss is you're not recognizing the people that are doing this work.
Mm,
If it's an add-on and they're not being measured, why do that extra work?
right.
So thinking about it, bigger picture, training, thinking about recognition, and then thinking about, how do we celebrate the culture that we have here?
And do you find companies are successful in keeping the communities alive?
It's a
And
challenge.
yeah.
Um, I think it's like a career. It ebbs and flows.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on the enthusiasm and the motivation of the team and the leaders. And it's why it's really important to have a diverse team. And, I'm not every day I'm going to be at 100%. And then on the days when I'm not 100%, Amy, I need you to pick up the ball here.
Right.
And understanding that we can lean on each other so that the group is always at 100%.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a partnership. I feel like I'm giving you my marriage success advice here.
Well, it is a partnership, right?
is.
And so you have to have the participation, one from the company or the organization, and the participation from the people who want to be mentored and the people who want to actually do the work,
Yes.
right? And it is work. You just don't want to make it feel like work. And when you're doing something that you enjoy, it doesn't feel like work. That's how I look at it, at least.
Yeah, you and I are cut from a very common, or the same cloth, where work ethic is important. And I have always, this comes from my dad. I remember as a little girl, he would wake up at 5 a.m. and I would wake up to make him breakfast. And he would put on his uniform. He's a diesel mechanic. Still wears the same uniform to this day, so it's not very fashionable at all. But he put on his uniform, and I came from a town of 900 people, and everybody knows him. But he would wear a uniform that had a patch that said Jim on it. And on the other shoulder, it had Dwayne's Diesel Service, which was the name of the company his dad created so that the family had a business.
Wow.
Yes. And to me, there's so much dignity in working. I remember that from an early day, like watching him get up and go to work. He was so happy. And I'm so grateful that was instilled in me. Like going to work every day is a gift.
Right. So you get your entrepreneurial spirit, honestly, from your grandfather.
That's true. And I get my work ethic from
your dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I get probably my need and sense to take care of others and to build the mentor spirit in others from my mom. So I do feel like there was a reason I was put on this earth and raised by those people. And I get the opportunity to do this work every day.
Yeah, well, you're doing such a great job.
Thank you.
You're impacting so many people. And I just love how what you do in building people, companies, and careers is so aligned to what we do, right? If people aren't being mentored in learning how to be the star of their career, then it doesn't impact organizations and companies. And we do see that all come full circle. So I think the opportunity to speak to you today, have you tell your story to our audience, is a perfect marriage.
Yeah.
So,
I love that tagline. So I've been listening to all your old podcasts and preparing for today, but I haven't heard yet. Where did that tagline come from?
So we've had the tagline for almost 23 years. So we'll celebrate our 23rd anniversary in March. And it just kind of really came natural to us. So when you're building people, that's internal to AccruePartners. It's our candidates, and it's the people in which we place at our clients. So you're building people, companies. By placing people in those companies, you're helping an organization identify talent for their organizational chart, no matter where it sits in there. And then the outcome of that is careers. We have people that have developed long tenured careers at AccruePartners, careers within the companies, and then helping people advance their careers as they seek to make job changes. So it just kind of came natural to what we do.
When I heard it, the first thing I thought of is that's really like the holy grail of work, because people are the heart of work.
Right.
The business is the brain of work, and your career is the soul. Like,
love it. I'm stealing it.
Please do. But the critical piece is actually the word before, because all of that will become stagnant if we don't invest in the building. And so that becomes really important. And I think when I look at my career and now my business, the places of immense growth were where the development plan of those three were on parallel lines.
Yeah, you have to. The building is the key, is the foundation to it all, right?
Yes.
And it's going to look different, but you have to start, with a solid foundation. And a lot of that is some of your just work ethic and your inspiration to learn and discipline, and such. So, yeah, that was great insight. I appreciate you sharing that. Not many people ask us where the tagline came from or what it means, but we do take it seriously in everything we do.
I see it in the work you do.
Oh, thank you. So, Stacy, people, companies talk about mentorship a lot. Often it never really comes to life.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your business model and what makes it unique?
Yeah. So you're 100% right. It is really challenging to build a program of mentorship. That's why I always start with investing in the training. So the model of mentorship that I developed from was all coming around what are the pain points in a person's career? And it turns out there are 6. So when we start, when we are getting ready to be a leader, when we are developing expertise and reputation in an industry, when we are innovating, when we are getting ready to grow, or when we just need to survive. So each one of those pain points has a particular type of mentorship style. And those mentors show up naturally in most companies. So now the work that I'm doing is helping us identify who are those natural mentors in an organization, how do we build them a custom playbook so that they know how to use those talents? Because once you understand your secret sauce as a mentor, the work becomes so much more fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll tell you, I recognize your natural mentoring style. You are a trailblazer, which is the type of mentor who helps us build credibility and reputation inside a market. And so I see it in the business you do. I see it in the way that you grow talent in your own company and how you staff the companies that you're staffing for. It's just a natural ability. Well, you then could get a custom playbook saying, this is the times and places where my mentorship would be most valuable. So it's this really cool way of recognizing that your natural abilities, and behind the scenes, I'm now giving recognition to top mentors in an industry, top mentors in a company, and kind of building this platform where we can share that mentorship that comes naturally to us.
Interesting. So you're using people's natural strengths to be that mentor, not asking them to do something that is not natural to them or something that they just don't feel comfortable with.
Yeah, it's this. The term is really wisdom economy. So you have, we're building all kinds of great AI and artificial intelligence, but what's the wisdom behind all of that technology? And that's something only a mentor knows.
Right.
And so there's like this cool piece where if you can go through something. I always say there are two really important days in a mentor's career. There's the day that you start, and then there's a day where you become the mentor. Because up until that point, you were just experiencing things.
Mm-hmm.
When you become a mentor, it now becomes information you can harvest and create opportunities and growth potential for others to share it with them. And so it's now, I went through all this stuff, and I could do something with it. And so there's this really cool magic moment that happens in a career. And in fact, for women, it starts to become apparent around age 40.
Interesting.
Yes.
I could see where that would be the case.
Yeah. There's been some research on when a woman becomes as confident as her male peers, and the magic number is 40. We don't surpass them in confidence levels until 60.
But what is it? Their frontal lobe is a lot slower than ours in their early 20s.
Well, this may be true. This may be true. But I think that, our goal is how do we reduce that age and start to build a more confident workforce earlier than what it currently is today.
Yeah, have a bigger impact sooner, quicker, faster.
Yes.
So, well, thank you for sharing a little bit about the business model and what I'm going to call your secret sauce.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. All right. So let's transition to the rapid fire.
Oh, good. Okay.
So tell us, where is your favorite restaurant in Charlotte?
So I'm not a big, let's go to lunch. I would rather, eat while working, and I know that's not a good thing.
Well, dinner. You got dinner.
Yeah, but I love to cook.
Oh, okay.
This is kind of my, take care of myself. But I love the Ballantine Bowl. And for a couple of reasons. There's lots of places, so it's going to be very efficient. And I always run into someone I know. Mm-hmm. And so it's effective. So that's good food and efficiency of meeting several people at once.
Yeah, I've been down there a few times. It is pretty interesting. And there's lots of options to choose from.
Yeah.
And it's easy in and easy out.
This is right. Good parking.
Yeah, good parking. So, okay, wonderful. So who would you describe as, maybe no names, maybe best boss, worst boss, something in there, created the path to where you are today?
Oh, you're trying to get me in trouble. Is this what this is about?
Not at all.
Well, actually, I was thinking about this question a little bit. And my best and worst boss, I've had great leaders in my life, and I know they've been examples of what to do. However, the bad examples, I think, were the most valuable lessons.
Right. It's like learning from mistakes.
But if I had to name someone, I would say definitely my boss now. I am a pretty good boss to me.
Love it.
I'm also only human, and I'm sometimes, when people ask me, how do you start a business and what do you do? I say you have to be your boss. Mm-hmm. And it just means it's discipline. it's self-management. And I think of myself in two ways. Like, I'm the boss, but I'm also the worker. And so did I live up to my boss's expectations
Right.
today? And so actually the answer to that question is me in both cases. I can be really good, but I can also be my own worst enemy.
Yeah, that's great. So you mentioned this a little bit earlier in the podcast at the beginning. You know, your journey in your career memories associated with what's brought you to where you are today, in forming the Pink Mentorship Network, in being a mentor to others. You had mentors along the way. But I guess with that, what is your most memorable journey
Mm.
that when you think back, like that was the moment?
Mm. So a couple of them, I think. So I am the oldest of four, and my mom worked actually at the same business that I was just talking about. And so during the summers, I would take care of my siblings. But at first, my mom would always hire a summer babysitter. So I had to convince my mom that I could do the job that this babysitter was doing and I deserved more money. So I promised I would cook them lunch and I would have the house clean and all of this. So
Hmm.
it was kind of a staffing move there, staffing play, because I wanted to put myself in that position. And then I knew I had my sister who was 18 months younger than me. She could do the work. So I delegated responsibilities after I landed the job to her. So that's one thing. I think that was my first experience in leadership. Like, I was a natural born leader because I was the oldest, but
Right.
it was making money from that skill was exciting. So that was kind of like my first how do you make money with the skills you have experience. But then later, I think a huge moment for me when I was starting Pink Mentor Network was I have three nieces, and actually I wear these bracelets because they represent my nieces, one the youngest, the middle, and the oldest. And it's sometimes hard to stay motivated when you're an entrepreneur, and I use them as my motivation.
Nice.
And the middle one, often I don't get to see them as much as I would want to. And the middle one often comes to me and she's like, "You're leaving already? You just got here." And my mom said to me and to her, "Stacy's dreams are bigger than her hometown.
Oh,
She has the ability to create environments to bring these experiences to us." And to me, that's always been that was like, yeah, I was put on this earth. Even though I'm not with my family every day, my experiences move us all forward.
hmm.
And that's just such a huge, huge moment that I remember.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Do they live out in Kansas?
Yes.
Okay. Do they come see you very often?
No, but I do go see them. Actually,
You were just there this summer.
I was, and they threw me a Pink Mentor Network
That's right. I saw
party.
that. Yeah.
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 And I got my dad a t-shirt that said "Dad of the CEO." And the tagline for Pink Mentor Network is "Never met a woman we couldn't learn from." And I
Mhm.
had my dad have that shirt on. And there are in my family, there are two men and four women. And so he's learned this lesson well.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. So, Stacy, how can others listening to the podcast today, how can they get in touch with you if they're looking to bring a mentorship community into their organization and find ways to connect with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is the best way to communicate with me for business needs in an organization. I find that it was also one of the things that I had to learn as an entrepreneur. You can't talk to everyone. And so finding your channel and finding your message is so important.
Hmm.
And LinkedIn has just been a great place to meet folks who are also passionate about mentorship, people who are looking to instill that skill in their team, looking to build like bigger legacies within the organizations that they're leading. So LinkedIn is a great place to connect.
Great. Well, wonderful. Well, I appreciate you being on Building People, Companies, and Careers. I can't believe I've known you since 2017 and feel like I've seen you build it from the ground up back to the building component. And we wish you only the best success as you continue your journey.
Thank you very much. It's just a great pleasure to be here.
All right. Thank you.